So I've been here since June 2006, and I can tell you it was a very hard transition. It was a very, very frustrating process. And at the end of the day, it was just like, who was I to think that I can bring these ways and these ways of doing things here where culturally it's just not done here. It took me about maybe a year, maybe even 2 years to learn that, look, I'm not gonna change the way certain things are done here, and I'm just gonna frustrate the heck out of myself by trying to do so. The best thing to do is accept it and adapt. Hey YouTube fam, welcome to another On Deck with Throp podcast episode where we have meaningful conversations about living in Jamaica. If this is your first time visiting, a special welcome to you. I am your host, Throp Wellington, and I've had the pleasure of calling Jamaica my home for the past 15 years. Today's episode is part 2 of a 2-part conversation I had with my friend Yolanda. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, the link will be right up here and also down below in the description. However, you do not need to watch part 1 in order to enjoy today's episode, as Yolanda will actually be interviewing me on my experience moving to Jamaica and living here over the past 15 years. If you do find any value at all in our conversation today, please hit that like button. It definitely helps out with the channel. And of course, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future episodes with some awesome guests I have coming up. With no further delay, please enjoy the rest of my conversation with Yolanda.
I know we talked yesterday about me being able to pick your brain a little bit. So I'm in this education phase. You've transitioned, long time transition, gained your citizenship, really settled here, being able to learn more from you and people like you in Jamaica about what that transition was like, you know, and what are some things that I may not have said that I should be thinking about or adding to this list of things to do or things to think about or educate myself on before making a big leap?
Man, where do I start? Like I always tell people, and I mentioned this last night as well, it's like, and you said it today, living here and vacationing here is 2 completely different things. And I always encourage people of like, even if you're considering moving here, come spend 30 days, come spend 3 months. You know, if you're willing in your heart to commit a good portion of your future to spend here, at the very least, you can commit 30 days and perhaps maybe even 3 months and really immerse yourself in the culture. And especially if you're in the phase that you're not sure which part of the island you want to live, travel around the island, go to different parts, stay all the way in Port Antonio, stay here in Negril. Do you like the Kingston city life? I met a young lady who reached out to me who saw the podcast, and she was an attorney from, I believe, New York. Very similar story to you. Challenges in corporate America, being Jamaican descent, and just feeling a lot more at home in herself here in Jamaica, and has fully moved here. But she still needed certain luxuries, if you will, and a certain level of lifestyle, and she could only find that in Kingston. You know, she needed like great restaurants, she needed high level social life, she needed career driven people. That's going to be hard to find in Negril, right? And so that fits her and her goals and her life goals. And so, and even though Jamaica is one island and we're a small island, there are very different types of lifestyles that you can live within this one island. And you just have to really find what fits you. Like even in Negril, I would say from a housing standpoint, it's hard to find. I would say there's a lot of new buildings going up in Kingston, for example. And that are luxury, and here in Negril, we don't have a lot of those options. And those types of options that are available, they're extremely expensive. And in my opinion, some of them are really just I don't know what they're thinking in terms of the developers and sellers. But yes, they're nice. But Kingston, I think you're going to be getting a little bit more value for your money. And if you are looking for that, you may, like the young lady I was speaking to, you may find the types of social networks that you're looking for. You want something a little bit more laid back, Negril was probably an area that you might consider looking at.
And if you want to have access to both?
People have told me Ochi is a good medium. You're 45 minutes from Kingston. You still have what would I say, a normal-ish life in Ochi. Like Negril is different. Like it's a tourist-centric town, and most people who are here are somehow directly affiliated with, and maybe not directly, but there's some sort of affiliation with tourism. And whereas in Ochi and in Kingston, like that's where the money in Jamaica is, in Kingston, and that's where corporate Jamaica is. And by living in Ochi, and we have the new highway as well, you can get there fairly quick. You probably get there in half an hour if you're a fast driver, to be honest. With the new toll road, and it's smooth, and you know, I know people who live in Ochi and work in Kingston, you know, so that it's very, very doable to have both. And I'd also add, for example, with Negril, you don't necessarily need to live in Negril. Like, so if what's drawing you here is the 7 Mile white sand beach of Negril, you can live in Lucy, you can live in Little London, you can live in Sav. And what a lot of people also do is they'll buy a piece of land and they'll build their house. That's probably one of the most common things to do here in Jamaica. And it's relatively affordable to find land and also build your house. But I always tell people, if you're going to build your house, you got to be here. Don't be in the States or the UK or Canada and sending money down and having construction happen. You want to be able to be here on the ground, because they will take the shirt off your back 100%. But my point is that you don't necessarily need to live on the beach in Negril, and you can have your home as your hub, and then you can drive to the main aspect of the town, if you will, or of the area. And yeah, you will need a car. You know, I would say I would highly recommend that. Negril is a very walkable town. I would say if you're here tourists and visiting, and you can really find your own lane relatively easily, and there's basically the beach road and the West End road, and for the most part, that's it. It's hard to really get lost here. And so it's easy to find your own, so to speak. But if you are going to be here, it's probably a better idea to have a vehicle.
Are you trying to sell me on the grill?
I mean, I wouldn't be doing service if I didn't. You know, I love Negril. My heart is here in Negril, and I think there's a lot of positives to being here in Negril, but at the same time, there's so much potential. And I would absolutely encourage somebody of your caliber, of your experience and your brain power to bring that here, and not only create opportunity for yourself, but you can definitely create opportunity for the talent and resources, human resources that we have here. And I always encourage people, especially if you're an entrepreneur, like Negril is so untapped, and I'm always afraid that I do encourage outside people, foreign direct investment, of course, but I mean, if we can do it as Jamaicans, as Jamaican descendants, man, why not? You know, why not continue to make this ours more than anything else, rather than have outside parties come and do it? I mean, and if they do it, sure. But I'm telling you here and now that the opportunity is there. It's here. We're a diamond in the rough, and I really would like to see Negril at some point reach its full potential.
You're speaking my language.
Awesome.
But you brought up, I want to jump back to assimilation.
Sure.
So I talked a little bit about my experience growing up in America with the Jamaican roots, and you talk the same with values. And so when you kind of flip that script and you toss the coin, and now you're bringing your American roots and culture to Jamaica, what has that assimilation process been like? Because I have stories that I have shared and can share about being the American here in the summer, and then going back to the States and what that was like. But again, living here, and you've been here for a while, you know, what does that acceptance or assimilation look or feel like?
Sure. So I've been here since June 2006. Basically, right after undergrad, I moved down here, joined the family business, started working with my father. And I can tell you it was a very hard transition. And I didn't really understand. I don't think I understood what I was going through at the time. Like, I was going from living and growing up in New York to coming to Jamaica, where very different lifestyle, right? And I only came here during the summers as a kid for 3 weeks at a time. And this is why I say that you don't really know what it's like to live here and vacation here. It's just two different things. And I thought I understood the Jamaican culture, but I had no idea. And so at that time, I was literally going back to New York every single month. Like I was finding an excuse to go back. And I had a lot of FOMO for sure. Like my friends, they were in their corporate jobs and they were going to happy hour. So I had that pull of New York and being a 22-year-old man. And also I had the pull of Jamaica, which is this great opportunity that I have with my father and our family business. But it was difficult. And it was hard for me to understand why certain things were done the way that they were here. And initially my approach was like, all right, we got to change this. We got to make it more efficient. There's better ways to do this. So I was coming in here with my American, if you will, my American ways and tried to impose that on how things are done here. And it was a very, very frustrating process. And at the end of the day, it was just like, who am I? Like looking back, like who was I to think that I can bring these ways and these ways of doing things here where culturally it's just not done here. But so at the end of the day, it took me about maybe a year, maybe even 2 years to learn that, look, I'm not going to change the way certain things are done here. And I'm just going to frustrate the heck out of myself by trying to do so. And the best thing to do is accept it and adapt. On the business side, one of those was just dealing with the bank. It's gotten a lot better, like way, way, way better today. But I was spending, some days I would spend 2 hours at the bank just to try to make a deposit, like the simplest of things. And it was just so frustrating. Talk to the bank manager, talk to the and again, trying to make adjustments and like, listen, like, you can make so much more money as a bank if you got more people through, but it just didn't matter, and it just like, that's the way the things are. From a social aspect, for me, like my best friends are in the United States. That I have friends that I grew up with from kindergarten that I am still friends with now. I haven't found that here, to be honest, and it could be my upbringing and being an outsider, so to speak. And in many ways, I still am considered an outsider, which is fine, and I've come to accept that. And I would say now I'm in my late 30s. It's 37 late? That was at mid 30s. I don't know, but whatever.
Closer to late. Once you get past that 6, you're on the upside.
Okay, all right, late 30s. We'll go with that. So I guess now in my late 30s, like I've come to accept that, and then also like I've just become more myself, if you will, and not really try to like fit in, so to speak. And whether it's like meeting somebody for the first time or within my social groups here in Negril, like I am who I am. At the end of the day, I don't speak patois. I don't want to embarrass myself because I'm just terrible at it, and that's okay. And funny enough, I've gotten comments on this channel, and probably I will get some more comments that it's disrespectful that because I've been here so long that I don't speak patois. And I'm like, you don't want me to speak patois. Trust me, you don't.
You can't win for losing, right?
No, right? Exactly. And so this is how I talk. This is how I've been raised, and that's what it is. For sure, like there will be certain words that will come out in patois that like I just be talking, and it just comes out just by being here in the culture. But I feel like I'm faking jacks if I'm trying to like have a full-on conversation in patois.
The other thing that we talked about that I thought was brilliant was how do you create a community for Jamaican Americans or just foreigners that may not be Jamaican American, that can be coming from any other country and have Jamaican roots. And have you been able to connect any of that community to help people like ourselves?
Sure. So I'll say two things on that. So one, going back to me trying to sell you on Negril, there is an incredible expat community.
I'm sold
here.
on Negril, so
really?
Yes, I'm very close. I'm still looking at other places, but after we talked, I started looking at real estate. Anyway,
okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Please, if you have any questions on Negril, like I'd be more than happy to answer them. So the expat community here in Negril, there are so many people from all over the world, Australia, all over Europe, America, Canada, of course. And it's a really, really welcoming community. And in many ways, that, like I was saying before, they bring so much value to the community because they're bringing their experience, their knowledge, both professionally and culturally, to Jamaica and to Negril. And I feel like we have like a little United Nations here. And even in them they're fully accepted in the community, because I would say most of the expats here, a large majority, I would say, are involved in the community directly and have a real vested interest. Some of them are business owners, some of them are just retired here. But again, a large majority of them are trying to give back and trying to bring Jamaica and trying to bring Negril up. So it's a very, very nice community to be a part of. I guess in normal times, they used to go to happy hour every week, multiple days per week, because the expat community, right? It's a cool community to be a part of. Outside of that, the second point is again, through this YouTube channel, I've been able to meet and connect with so many Jamaican descendants who either have moved here or are trying to move here. And some of the people who have moved here, like, we're trying to formulate a group that we can communicate or at least interact with each other and just swap notes about what this person is going through and what that person is going through. So I'm actually trying to set up a Zoom meeting amongst us. And I found them all through YouTube. Like, they all have their own YouTube channel. I've reached out to them. And so now I'm just trying to put together like a Zoom conference call.
Invite me.
Absolutely. You're absolutely
I know
invited.
I haven't made the transition, but it would be helpful, I think, for people who are looking to make the transition to here, to be able to be a fly on the wall and often even participate, but at least be a fly on the wall and learn from your experiences.
Yeah, and they're from all over the world. I should say we're from all over the world, all different ages. There was one young lady who is, I think, 22 or 23, and she moved here to Negril. There are people who are doing the whole work from home thing, moving from Europe and working from Jamaica here. So a lot of different stories, a lot of different reasons why they're doing it. So, and I'm sure a lot of different challenges that they're going through in making this transition, because, I mean, like I said, my transition definitely took well over a year for me to actually get settled.
And get acclimated. I think that's amazing. I used to think I had a lot of grit and guts, but I'm hearing the stories. I watched one of your previous podcasts and hearing your story, that this is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big leap. Some could say, well, you up and moved from Florida to Maryland, but I was still in America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Up and going across the water to another country
Right.
and leaving everything behind. I think that's amazing.
One of the greatest things about Jamaica is it's so easy to go back and forth. It's quick, 2 hours of Florida,
Just over 3 to the DC.
That's
metro
right.
area.
That's right. Yeah. And there's flights every single day. Probably wasn't the best to be so convenient for me in the beginning, but it was there, and I guess I needed that, and it was fairly affordable, a few $100. Also that's something to keep in mind if you need that back and forth during your transition phase.
Any regrets?
No, I mean, I had my FOMO in the beginning, but like looking back and having been here over 15 years, this is certainly, without a doubt, the greatest opportunity that I have had in my life so far, to be a part of this family business, and then also living here. At the time when I was 22-year-old, when I was young 22-year-old Throp, and having the nostalgia of being back home and looking back at my friends always used to say, it's like, man, I wish I were you. I was like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, I wish I was you. I want to be in New York City. I want to be, on that New York grind. And then, having the experience of a 22-year-old in his first career in New York City. And I didn't understand that. I didn't understand what they meant by that and how they could say that. It hasn't been until recently that I really started appreciating Jamaica. And when I say recently, I would say like the last 5 years of just like appreciating the island as a whole, like its beauty, the culture, like the food, like, and these things, like, they were here, and it's like one of those things, like, it's in front of your face, but you don't realize how good you actually have it. It was further embedded in my mind on my last New York trip, which I realized, like, man, New York is freaking expensive, right? And like, I knew that already, but for whatever reason, like, I realized it more and more. And being here in Jamaica, it's just, I could save way more money by being here. When I compare to live the lifestyle that I have here in New York. Like, it just wouldn't be possible for me. It is what it is. And I used to say I'm happier in New York, but now I'm like, no, I'm happier in Jamaica for sure. For sure. There's just a heightened level of freedom. They say America, home of the free, home of the brave. Yeah, that's true. But like, I just feel freer here, and just being able to, and I'm not trying to flex or anything like that, but just, I go on my runs in the morning, and like every morning, like I'm able to go and have a swim afterwards, and that's how I start my day. That's very hard to find in parts of the States, right? And
Well, you said a few things, and you brought me back to something my dad used. One of the reasons he came back was the same thing. He said the States, land of the free, home of the brave, but he felt free in Jamaica. He was able to live his best life, like really live his life. You have working to live and living to work, and we all as individuals have to figure out what that means for us.
Right.
And he felt Jamaica really afforded him the opportunity to live his life the way he wanted to live it, and that's important. The other thing that you said was the things that we take for granted. I brought my kids here for the same reason. They've grown up in the States, in a very affluent community and situation, and access to everything all the time. And bringing them here has, I hope, has humbled them a bit and grounded them in a way to realize the things that they take for granted being in the States, and can come to appreciate some of the things that Jamaica has to offer in terms of values and culture that they're not afforded in the States. But we oftentimes take for granted the things that are right in front of us.
right.
That's why they need to be removed. COVID did it as well. When everybody was thrust into quarantine, you found people reconnecting with their families and realized that's why people are making these decisions post-COVID.
Yep.
Is that, or we're not post-COVID now anymore, but as you get to this, as we're moving through COVID, people are making major lifestyle, decisions and changes in their life because of the realization of the things that they have taken for granted over time, that COVID forcing us to be still has allowed you to fully realize.
Yep.
It's no different for me. And it's in all aspects of my life, not just my professional life or just my personal life. I've looked at everything and said, how did you let this get this far?
Wow.
How did you lose sight of this? Why are you not appreciating this more? One of those things is myself. Realizing how much I've put myself last, on the back burner. And we do it all the time. Women do it. Black women do it more than any other group. That time is done. And coming back to Jamaica, I think, helps with that. So I appreciate that and can relate to the piece that we take for granted. When we landed this trip, so it's been 7 years since I came. And when I was here in 2014, I noticed how much Jamaica had matured as a country. It didn't look like what it looked like when I was a child. When I came, I flew Air Jamaica. You remember?
Yep.
I loved Air Jamaica.
Jamaican breakfast.
Right. And I would exit the plane outside and walk across the tarmac. And I actually love that. I don't like that we walk through the bridge and come into the airport right now. The roads are still tight, but they were even tighter. They were even closer. And I remember my dad used to say to me, "Do you like your arm?" Because I used to like it sitting outside the window. So you probably want to bring it in.
Yep, right.
And cars would pass so slow. So, but now the country has matured even faster, and clearly I've only been here for a few days, but that would be something that I think as people are making transitions and they think about the lifestyles that they need to keep and the things that they need to have, to understand what Jamaica's journey has been like relative to globalization and technology advancement, and what's your experience been with that over the 15 years is a long time to see that kind of grow and change over time.
So I'll say, like, when I was a kid, I used to, even though I was only coming here for 3 weeks, I used to tell myself, like, I can never live in Jamaica, like, under no circumstance. And like, one was I had, again, that FOMO, like I was missing my football camps with my friends back in New York and summer camps, all that sort of thing. And then on top of that, the technology gap was like crazy. And so like coming here, it was like going back in time, at that time, and we're talking the early 90s at this point. To your point about the roads, oh man, I hated the drive. One from Montego Bay to Negril, like that was terrible. I don't remember how long it took, but a lot longer than it's taken now. And then we used to visit our grandmother, drive from Negril to Kingston. I love visiting my grandma, but I hated that drive. That drive was terrible. I got car sick so easily, like when I was a kid. So I used to dread those drives. But I mean, of course, the end of the rainbow, I got to see my grandma. That's not the case anymore. Jamaica has really good highway roads. We still have terrible roads, a lot of potholes, like even now here in Negril, but it's a lot better than it was back then. It's a lot faster to move around the island. There's another highway project coming on board to connect Port Antonio to the rest of the island, and it continues to roll out. You're seeing these massive infrastructure investments that are happening. That is just fantastic for the country, fantastic for just business and commerce in general. Another thing that a lot of people don't talk about is JPS has gotten a lot better. Like we used to have power outages like regular. I don't know about the other parts of the island, but Negril, it's gotten so much better, and I have to applaud them for where we were. They were when I first moved here and to where they are now. In addition to that, like I also mentioned, like the banking has gotten a lot better. It is just so much quicker. You know, you're not spending, it's still not America. Don't get me wrong. You're still going to be there for a while, but it's better than it was before. As far as the quality of housing throughout Jamaica, I've never seen development that I've seen, the rate, at least at the rate that I'm seeing now. And this is not like old time housing development. These are modern day infrastructures, modern day housing that you'll see in the south of France, like how these buildings are designed. I mean, these are beautifully designed buildings and residents. So you have like a plethora of different options to choose from. I mean, your lifestyle can be very similar, and I would say maybe even exceed that of wherever you're from in the United States, but just bringing that to the tropics and it costing you a lot less. Even like Digicel and Flow, or what was cable and wireless down here, it used to be terrible. Like we only had cable and wireless when I moved here, I believe. But now, competition does incredible things, and now you have two different wireless mobile carriers to choose from, and it's good quality service. Before we were on like Edge wireless, like that's the like so, and like now we have LTE, we have 4G throughout the island. So those are little things that I don't take for granted because I know what it was like before. And so things are definitely moving up and moving forward in that sense.
Well, that would also make it easier too for people that want to transition and want to be able to work and maintain those connections to the States or wherever their respective homeland countries are, myself included. So it's definitely something that people don't talk about. And I've noticed it. It's been like night and day. And every time I come, it seems like there's been a major leap in the technology and the infrastructure of the country, which is amazing.
And it's not like you're moving to Jamaica and you're taking a step back.
Right.
No, you're advancing. You're either at where you were before or you're advancing, as I mentioned before.
And you have options.
Definitely. You can even get Amazon here, so you don't have to give that up either.
So I went on Amazon and it was like, we want to do your location. And I was like, I wanted to put it to the test. I wanted to see if I could get Amazon next day.
Oh, no. Okay, so you can't do it directly through Amazon. There are different shipping companies that you have to go through, and I believe you have to buy it on certain days. You ship it to a location in the States and they'll bring it down for you. Okay. But you don't have to wait. I remember somebody ordered there was a new Harry Potter book that came out. This was like almost 10 years ago or whatever it was. It took like 3 or 4 months to get here. Something crazy, something ridiculous. I don't know, something out of this world. But like, again, those days are done. You don't have to worry about that.
That's interesting because when I was coming, I always contact everybody that I know is here and say, what do you need me to bring down?
Oh, no, we still have that. We still need that.
That's out of that mindset of it taking forever to get it or just not being able to access it or it being too expensive here.
Right.
Like how much can I fit in my suitcase to carry that?
Right.
I would say that we've talked about a lot of the tangible things that are required to move and the things that are in your head and in your hands, like what I'm thinking about and what I'm doing to make that happen. And I think of it in 3 different phases: your head, your heart, and your hands. Mm-hmm. Where's your head, where's your heart, and what are your hands doing? When I think about where I am in my transition and I think about our discussion and the things that you've talked about that help educate me and this conversation being able to help educate other people, I think what's the most important is what's in everybody's heart, and for me, and where your heart is.
Right.
And a large part of my heart resides here with Jamaica. And no matter what I do or say, that's how I know it's real. I get drawn back to Jamaica. And I don't know if that was the same for you, especially going back and forth from New York. What was that final thing, like that switched? What was the pull that said, this is it, it's Jamaica?
For me, it's like it definitely comes down to family. Like, obviously, I don't think I would be here if it weren't for my brothers, if it weren't for my dad. And even with my dad, I mean, not to talk about mortality or anything like that, really, but I mean, he's just healthier here, at the end of the day, and not from a physical health point, but like mentally. He had the vision to understand that about himself when he started this hotel, and then ultimately made a full transition to leave America and come here. As you're speaking, it's like, man, maybe I need to have this conversation with my dad. Like, what made him leave his life and seemingly so easily, at least from an outside perspective, leave everything there, because he was a very successful businessman in New York, and to leave that New York money and to leave the New York business to come down here, there must have been something incredible that drew him here. And it's everything, it's the sun, it's the sand, it's the sea, it's the culture, and it's that peace of mind that he has. And I'm lucky enough that he was able to bring me and to allow me the opportunity to see that for myself. And like, that's what I have here. And as I mentioned before, I'm just a lot freer than I am mentally, that I am in New York, and I can move around mentally and otherwise here in Jamaica, otherwise than New York.
I think you hit the nail on the head, and that's that you cannot put a price on peace.
Right.
And from the moment I made decisions in my life that would pivot me towards this place of peace, I was instantly happier. Maybe not where I aspire to be from, the happiest position, but I'm happier. I'm at peace with my decisions. I'm not chasing a paycheck. I'm really chasing my purpose and my passion, and it brought me back here to Jamaica, and that's priceless.
And I think a lot of people can relate to the former feeling of you being in the States, but at the same time, they want to be in your position. They want that feeling. And I think people unfortunately go throughout their whole entire life and they just don't have the opportunity for that feeling. And I think that you're so blessed to be in that position mentally, to be considering making this move. And then also, congratulations to even have the presence of mind to make this decision and to be open to it and to be making this move. And I hope to see you here in Negril on a more permanent basis sometime in the future.
Same. Thanks so much for having me.
No, thank you. I really do appreciate you doing this and taking the time out. And to our audience, thank you for joining us today. Yolanda, if you have any social media outlets or platforms that you are on, if you could share that with us. I'm sure people have a lot of questions and they would love to contact you.
Yes, absolutely. So if you'd like to follow me, you can follow me on LinkedIn at Yolanda D. Murphy, YOLANDA-D-MURPHY. Again, that's LinkedIn. That is also my handle on Instagram. So it's at Yolanda D. Murphy, both Instagram and LinkedIn. I look forward to seeing you there.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Yolanda. And thank you guys so much for joining us here today. Any questions at all, please leave them in the comment section below. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.